What's going on, my fellow degenerates? Passion here once again with another video with some Overwatch 2 gameplay. So, it's the end of the season. You know what time it is. That means it is time for our end of season retrospective in our Was It Good series. This time, we're going to be talking about Season 19, Haunted Masquerade. So, if you don't know how one of these go, I usually give you about 8 or so different categories and give each one a school grade rating, and at the end we're going to give a overall rating for the whole season at the very end. So without further ado, let's get started as we usually do with the theming. So this season was called Haunted Masquerade, and it was very heavily tied into one of the LTMs we got this season. Now, personally, I'm definitely really glad that we were able to do something for Halloween that wasn't just another straight-up retread of Halloween Terror, and instead took us in a fun new direction for the Halloween season. Not only did the main title of the season do this, but the secondary theme, being Spirit Showdown, also had a dedicated LTM around mid-season as well. And this is one of the first times I can recall in the history of the game that such synergy has happened between both the main theme of the season and the secondary theme. Even though Spirit Showdown was integrated after Halloween, it still kept the spooky vibes going all season long, and this has definitely been one of the most thematically consistent entries yet for Overwatch 2. I'm going to give the theming a rating of an A. So, moving on to the next section, I decided to actually retitle this next section because of the way I've been covering it in the past couple of reviews, and it's still going to cover the same stuff, but this is the Battle Pass and Mythic content. Because I've been covering not only just the Battle Pass, but also a lot of the Mythic skins and weapon skins and everything in this section, so I figured, you know what, why not add that officially to the title of this section? So that's what we're calling it from now on. So, the Battle Pass and Mythic content. Now, personally, I found this Battle Pass to be kind of all over the place. It seemed like every single page I would that I would go through, like half of the content excited me, and the other half was just really forgettable. We did get some absolutely goated skins in this Battle Pass, such as Vampire Moira, Ninja Sombra, and Cursed Woods Echo. And the Ultimate Battle Pass, also hella dope, with Vampire Kiriko and the R7K Preserver Ramatra. But on the flip side, there were just some weird and dud skins like the Cursed Candle Torbjorn, the One-Eyed Wilhelm Reinhardt, and my personally most hated skin of the season, that would be Mermonster Wu Yang. Now, I mentioned this in my Battle Pass reaction video, but it bears repeating here, is that I have this feeling that, much like with Kiriko, the cosmetic designers are too afraid to make Wu Yang too ugly, because they're kind of banking on the simps who find him hot to kind of push skin sales of him. You know what I mean? And I don't necessarily hate the idea of a mermaid slash mermonster Wu Yang. I think it's a cool idea in theory, but I think he deserved a lot scarier of a skin and a lot more menacing looking of a skin for this Battle Pass, and instead he just kind of looks like a rejected Monster High doll, in my opinion. It wasn't just the skins, a lot of the supplemental content was kind of hit or miss as well. And I can't even point to any one particular type of reward as the problem, because they all kind of had it. Because where one spray went hard, another one kind of sucked. Where one name card was badass, another one was weak. Where one voice line was basically an instant equip, another one was it's just going to sit in my hero galley forever, it just sucks. So, if there ever was a definition of a mid-Battle Pass, this is definitely it. We then, surprisingly, got, for the first time ever this season, 2 Mythic hero skins. So at the season's launch, we got Divine Druid Lifeweaver. Then later at mid-season, we got Cyber Fuel Junkrat. They also changed the way Mythic hero skins unlock as well. So previously with skins like Reaper's Anubis skin or Widowmaker's Spellbinder skin, the idea was to kind of make Mythic skins kind of feel like an evolution of the hero, right? Where the skin would get more and more elaborate and detailed as you unlock the tiers. However, they finally realized that when they would do mythics like this, most of the players would tend to just use the last fully maxed out version of it, with only maybe some slight tweaks in like the colors or maybe the hairstyles. Like, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of variation between skins because people would just would default to that fully maxed out version, and basically just leave the other tiers untouched because they were so uncool. So now, rather than unlock one of each customization aspect per level, the customization types are now all bundled together at each level. So the base unlock of the mythic includes the fully completed mythic skin. There's no kind of like bare bones kind of legendary feel to the mythic skins anymore. The mythic skins are truly mythic from the first moment you unlock them. Then level 2 features all your customization for your clothing, and like armor that you may have. Level 3 then gives you all of your colorways, and level 4 finally features the skins VFX toggle. So I do think that this is a great change to how mythic hero skins are delivered, and it brings them much more in line with how the mythic weapons have been functioning since their introduction in Season 11. I do think that they've kind of made the mythic hero skins feel a lot more like the mythic weapons, which is a great thing. And speaking of mythic weapons, this season the mythic weapon went to Kiriko with her Spirit Keeper mythic weapon skin. I absolutely loved the blue flame design they had for this. The Fox Spirit kill effect also really suits Kiriko. It might be one of my favorite kill effects in the whole game now. But once again, I'm a sucker for those flourish animations, man. I love the various ways that you can twirl Kiri's kunai around. And now, much like with Cass's mythic weapon last season, I am constantly fidgeting with the kunai. However, unlike Cass, who I only ever really play in Mystery Heroes, because I don't really main him in Quick Play or anything, I get to use this flourish a lot more, because Kiri is actually a hero in my hero pool that I consistently play in competitive and in Quick Play. So, props to Blizzard on making a great mythic weapon skin for Kiri. So while I think all of the mythics were great this season, that's kind of also my problem with them. Because when you're only getting 80 prisms in the Battle Pass, you can only max out one mythic per season. And it was hard enough to often choose between the hero or weapon skin when they started coming out together at the start of the season in Season 17. It was hard enough to choose between the two of them at the start of the season. As to what I wanted to use my prisms on, but if we're going to start getting multiple mythic hero skins from this point forward, like, that feels deliberately exploitative to press you into buying the mythic prisms to be able to get everything. Because otherwise, you really just have to pick and choose each season what's worth unlocking. And as you can tell, I obviously went with Kiri's weapon this time around, but yeah, unfortunately I had to leave the other two hero mythics behind, but I can say I did enjoy both of them more than I did Divas back in Season 17 when I chose that mythic weapon over the hero skin. But I just can't justify spending money on prisms to get these mythic hero skins when they aren't heroes that I play regularly. And I can basically no longer just collect the mythics like I was. That kind of sucks. That they're basically kind of forcing you to be, like, if you don't want to dish out all the money to get every mythic in a season, that you basically kind of just have to pick and choose now and decide, like, do I play this person enough to even get this skin? And that kind of sucks. So I do think that the mythic content props this section up quite a bit. But it just barely squeaks above average due to the seemingly anti-consumer strategy they seem to be taking with it now. That's why the Battle Pass and Mythic content is getting a rating of a B. So, moving on to usually my favorite section to talk about, and that is the limited time events and collabs. Now, I didn't think this section could get any worse than it got in the previous season. but Season 19 said hold my beer. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This was the worst season for LTEs and collabs yet. Just saying. Let's just get these collabs out of the way first because they were such a nothing burger since neither of them were even new. So the first collab we got was the return of One Punch Man, and it was only slightly more substantial than the return of Cowboy Bebop in Season 18. We got just 2 new skins for the return, including Hellish Blizzard Ash and Garu Wu-Yang. However, at least they had the decency to make Ein free for the Bebop return. Both of these new One Punch Man skins were in the shop at full price, alongside all the other One Punch Man skins, also at full price. And as someone who already didn't really care about this collab, this half-assed attempt to bring it back with these 2 new skins that weren't that great didn't excite me in the slightest. But then, after mid-season, they got even lazier than they had ever dared to do before, because we got the return of the Transformers collab here, and it's got to be one of the very first collab returns with not a single new skin to speak of, if you don't consider the Porsche bundle that has come back in the past. There wasn't even any challenges for it. Like, even for the One Punch Man return this same season, they brought back the challenges to get all those free Soldier 76 cosmetics, including the skin and the highlight intro. All of those came back. It was literally, this Transformers collab was literally just the exact same bundle from Season 11. However, with the aforementioned Porsche collab that I just mentioned, they didn't actually hype that up on social media as a collab return. It just kind of like surprise drop in the shop, returned one day, and they didn't make a big deal about it. It was just, another shop rotation. But with the Transformers collab, they did hype it up as a return of Transformers on social media. And I gotta admit, it was finally nice to right the wrongs of my past and pick up that Optimus Prime Reinhardt, but I'm not about to excuse it just for that. This was an absolute waste of 2 collab slots this season. So for LTMs, limited time modes, it did get marginally better. We obviously got the return of Junkenstein's Revenge and Wrath of the Bride again. Still no Endless mode or any hero mode, unfortunately, so I'm still not getting those challenges done. But I did like the way how they weren't the centerpiece of the season, and they were mostly just kind of tucked away in the arcade without any real presence on the main menu. In its place was the brand new LTM that the season was named after, Haunted Masquerade. So this mode saw you select from a limited pool of heroes and play on various control maps, with the twist being that you could wear masks of any other hero that was present on your team, giving you kind of a specialized buff to your hero that was somewhat based loosely on that other hero's kit. So for example, Zenyatta's mask would give you a mini Harmony Orb, and Reaper's mask basically gave you his passive of letting you heal by dealing damage. However, pairing certain lore-connected heroes together on the same team, and then one of those heroes wearing the other connected hero's mask would unlock a bonus ability as well. That was even more heavily tied into that hero's kit. So, also, to build up hype for the upcoming Season 20 hero that we now know is named Vendetta, a secret La Lupa mask was hidden around various maps in this mode, giving us a glimpse into her melee-focused playstyle with the mask's buffs, which is a really cool, kind of way to tease that hero that nobody was really expecting. So, props on them for that. This was obviously very clearly inspired by a Marvel Rivals team-up system, and although the devs have said they have no plans to bring a team-up system into Overwatch, much like Junkenstein's Lab before it, this was probably a pseudo playtest for bringing a system like that into Overwatch, even though they said that they don't want to do that. This might have been just an attempt to see how well it would be received if they did. And I would not be at all surprised if this gets announced and fleshed out a bit more, and then revealed at some big event like Spotlight or even BlizzCon, even at BlizzCon 2026. So I honestly did like this mode quite a bit. I'll be happy to see it return in the future for anniversary events, so long as a full team-up system doesn't cheapen the experience by then, like a Stadium did for Junkenstein's Lab. You know what I mean? So. However, the other LTM that we got this season that was based on off the secondary theme, which is the Spirit Showdown, I have some feelings about it. Now, functionally, it played quite a lot like the Nerf or Nothing mode from Season 17 that I really liked. Meaning that with every kill, you would swap heroes like in Gun Game. And your ultimate charge rate was both boosted and persistent between heroes, with heroes swapping if you died twice in a row. However, while Nerf or Nothing adopted a deathmatch score system like a traditional gun game, the Spirit Showdown is basically just like playing basic mystery heroes, but in reverse. So this distinction actually makes all the difference with the mode. In Nerf or Nothing, you felt rewarded for getting kills and swapping to the next hero, right? Because your score would go up and you'd be that much closer to winning. But in Spirit Showdown, you feel like you're just actively being punished. Like say you want to pull off a sick team wipe with Death Blossom as Reaper. Well, too bad. You got one kill with it, and now you're playing Hanzo. You got your ult as Mauga. You're playing Mauga, and you got your ult, and you really want to charge in there and use it and cage everybody up. Nope, you got smoked for the second time in a row, and now you're switched to Orisa with her crappy ult ready and waiting to go. And so you wouldn't think that taking what's essentially the same game mode and just changing the win condition of it would make it feel significantly worse to play, but it absolutely does. And before closing this section out, I do want to at least tip my hat to the way they reworked Junkrat's loot box hunt this season. Instead of making each day of it have 3 challenges for a loot box each, that if you missed playing that day, you just missed out, they changed it to have 9 challenges for the entire length of the LTE, and then making you unlock them one by one. So you would, the other challenges would be locked until you completed the first challenge, essentially. So you have to keep, completing each challenge to unlock the next one. But they gave you all 9 to start out with. That gave you plenty of time to pace yourself on unlocking them, and didn't have to worry about missing a day and missing out on some loot boxes. So I think that was a good change for them to do. So while the Haunted Masquerade was an instant classic and a welcome rotation to the seasonal LTMs, it just barely saves them from a failing grade, because the rest of the season was just god-awful in this department. It's getting a rating of a D. This next section is going to be fairly quick. New and reworked heroes, which, being an in-between season following the hero release in Season 18, there obviously really wasn't much in terms of hero changes this season, and nothing that would really constitute a rework. So I feel like this should just get an A rating. We're going to move on to our Section 5, which is Stadium Updates. Now, I want to start this section off with the thing that this season is probably going to be remembered for the most in the Stadium department. It isn't the new heroes, or the new map, or the new gadgets that we're going to get into in a minute. It's the fact that they tried to take Stadium Quick Play's best of 5 format and apply it to Stadium Competitive. Now, since I abandoned Stadium Competitive last season, like I can't personally say how the change felt to me. I never tried it. Haven't touched Stadium Competitive in at least a couple seasons now. But I can tell you that the backlash was massive. However, much like an echo of the old 5v5 versus 6v6 debate, there was actually a not significantly, small number of players that actually did prefer the best of 5 format over the best of 7, and the two groups were kind of like going back and forth with each other. Like, let's say, oh, best of 5 is better, best of 7 is better. Ultimately, though, as usual, the side that screams the loudest, or the side that parrots back the opinions of their favorite creators in a parasocial show of solidarity, is the one that often gets heard. So it was reverted back to best of 7 after a couple weeks. Again, it's hard for me to say if this was a good decision or not, as I didn't play best of 5 competitive, but I have a feeling I would have liked it, as I have enjoyed Stadium Quick Play when I've actually played Stadium. And I'm surprised that it took them as long as it did to actually revert it. Maybe it's because, they had these two groups of people arguing like which one's better. Because when it came to the draft system from last season, like, they changed that like that, it was nothing. But this actually took a few weeks to get patched back in, but it was back to the way it was previously by mid-season. So when it comes to new heroes, once again we got 3 this season. But unlike previous seasons, it wasn't one of each role. Instead, we got one tank, which was Hazard, and then 2 DPS, Sojourn and Torbjorn. And I gotta say, this is the first time since Stadium launched that I actually love playing as all 3 of the new heroes. Like, it was really hard to pick a favorite. I think that's because all 3 of them can be rewarding with bad aim, which to be honest, has probably been my limiting factor to having fun with Stadium. It's because, it's probably why I didn't enjoy really aim-intensive heroes like Pharah and Cassidy. Because, for me, there's too much visual clutter just on screen at all times in Stadium to really be able to aim precisely. So heroes that can still deal a ton of damage and get kills with either like these lock-on abilities or just general AoE kind of things, or just needing to fire in their general direction, like those feel more fun to me. And Hazard, Sojourn, and Torbjorn kind of all have that in different ways, and they were absolute blasts to play. And while we didn't get a support this season, Ana did get a rework in Stadium that moved some of her previous items and turned them into powers, and then gave her several all-new items to replace them. I didn't really try her out, as she's not really a regular hero for me in Stadium, which is already a mode I don't spend a whole hell of a lot of time in. So I won't factor her rework too much into the rating. However, from the developer update showing off like what she was capable of doing now, it does seem like the change was made for the better, and she wasn't really overly OP in my time with Stadium either. In fact, I don't think I even really saw her much in my matches following this rework of Ana. So when it comes to maps, we just got one new map this season, that being another port from core Overwatch, and this was of Busan Sanctuary. Now, this map is alright in Stadium. I don't mind it, but I think I would have much preferred to port either of the other Busan submaps, like Downtown and Mecha Base. I think either one of those would have been preferred, I think, over Sanctuary, as it's probably my least favorite one of those maps in core Overwatch in terms of, like, you know, Busan submaps. So yeah, it's alright, but I think they could have done better. So this season also saw the introduction of gadgets. Now, gadgets are special items that take up an item slot in your armory, but give you an actual new active ability complete with a keybind and a cooldown. So the cooldowns are usually quite long to discourage spamming, but you can do all kinds of crazy things with them, as there are gadgets for every single item rarity. So there are some generic ones that you can just apply to any hero, but there are others that are hero specific. Now, I didn't get to play around with these too much, as I didn't like play much of Stadium this season, but the stuff that I get to do when I tried them, like I got to do stuff like give Torb a speed boost, or give Hazard his own personal Suzu, which is kind of cool. It is kind of hard to remember to use them, and for me personally, I don't have many great options for gadgets to keybind them to on my keyboard, to make them accessible enough to make me remember to use them. But that's just a me problem. That's not a problem with the game at all. Overall, I think gadgets are a great addition to the game that do add some fun depth to each hero. So, since we've already covered the failed Best of 5 experiment, let's cover some of the other quality of life changes to Stadium. Probably the biggest was the introduction of combat numbers. So much like an MMO or other MOBAs, it will show you exact damage amounts when a shot or an ability hits your target. Now, Blizzard gave players the ability to heavily customize these, including like the font size, the color, the transparency, which types of damage you want combat numbers for, all that stuff. Or the ability to turn it off completely if you think this is too much in your face. Because Stadium is already like very visually cluttered, so you'd think adding more would make the game worse, but honestly, seeing the combat numbers is so satisfying in matches. It makes every hit feel weightier when you can see like this big 100 plus damage number coming up, right? Or you see it change colors from a critical hit. I've loved the combat numbers in Stadium. This might be one of the best additions to Stadium yet, probably right behind the introduction of Quick Play last season. So Stadium Forge also saw some love with a newly reorganized menu, which includes armory filters and armory sub-tabs, letting you more easily kind of sort through items to find the exact ones you're looking for, which is, again, great. We got some support for the advanced info panel from Stadium, and like just we had in core Overwatch last season. It's not completely finished yet, but they did add a bunch of stuff like ability power, weapon power, health, armor, shield, movement speed, damage info, stuff like that. There will be further additions to this in future seasons, but they finally have at least partially brought it into Stadium this season. So finally, at mid-season, we got some more changes to the draft system in competitive Stadium. Now, the system was changed to be a blind pick system, meaning that both players of the role chose at the same time, and then both players reveal their heroes at the same time. Tank was also automatically given the final spot in the draft order, which, to be honest, every time that I have attempted to play competitive Stadium before this, that was kind of what I was trying to do anyway, is that you want to have Tank be the last in the draft order, because that way you can, more easily plan around everything, and know what you want to pick for counters and stuff. So that's alright. So players can also now, following the mid-season patch, choose to unequip a power if they do it in the same round the power was equipped in. So say you accidentally like choose a power that you don't want, or you try a power and it's not working out, if it's, as long as it's still in the same round, you're good. And I think as long as the armory is still up, I think the armory still has to be open as well to do that. But hey, that's an option for you now. Now, personally, I think these draft changes kind of even further dilute the purpose of the system. Like, I don't think that they're serving much of a purpose. And like I say, the whole blind pick system, like it makes it even less of a necessary thing for the draft system, in my opinion. Though I will say the ability to alter your powers after you pick one by accident, like I said, or one's not working out, that's pretty good. Overall, despite some stumbles with its formatting and a boring map choice, and Anna's rework not really making her particularly more interesting to play, I still think this season's Stadium content was actually pretty banger. I'm going to give it a rating of an A. Map updates, it's also going to be a pretty quick section here, because we didn't get a new map this season, apart from the one added in Stadium. Nor do we get any major map reworks or anything, so this is just going to get an A rating. We're going to move on. So, moving on to our section 7 for quality of life improvements. Now, we didn't get a whole lot of quality of life changes this season, but the ones we did get were interesting. So starting out, we got a sadly report on the death of the Hero Mastery courses. I would have loved to see these get a bit of an overhaul and turn into actual educational content for the game. But to focus more on other modes like core competitive, Stadium, and all that, they decided to just get rid of them. It's a shame, but I do get that they weren't overly popular. In fact, I don't think they've added a new one in several seasons or so, so it was definitely inevitable. So a long overdue feature has finally come to the game this season, and that's the ability to change the actual color of the various text chats, as well as the pings. Now, personally, I don't really see too much of a need to do this myself, as I've never been one to really customize the colors of my HUD apart from my crosshair, so changing the text chat and the ping colors doesn't really matter to me. But for all those aesthetic Mercy mains and the Mercy streamers out there who want all of their HUD to be nice and pink and girly, I am happy for you. Truly honestly happy for you that you can now have your text chats match the color of your layouts. Beautiful. So we also added the brand new story tab in-game at mid-season, and this lets players view basically all the story content for the game, as well as get teasers for upcoming content, even during the waiting screen between matches. And they kick this section off with a recap of all of the Overwatch 1 cinematics, and a newly edited kind of supercut of the story right up to before the invasion story arc takes place. However, they completely seem to have cut the invasion arc from the timeline, which is kind of a disappointment, because there's no mention of 0 Hour, there's none of the invasion cinematics that came with that whole PvE content, nothing even regarding Ramatra or Null Sector in any way, like not even talking about the Uprising. We're not even talking about the Uprising stuff from the Archives event. Null Sector is just not here in the story. in any way, shape, or form in that opening cinematic. I get that the invasion story arc and the Null Sector's involvement and everything, like that whole thing of the story, it didn't go the way the team had hoped, and that the story missions didn't sell very well, but to completely erase it just from the canon because of all that just seems like an overreaction. I also think that the recap cinematic, while nice, doesn't really delve deep enough into the actual lore. Because it basically goes like this. It basically says Overwatch won the first Omnic Crisis. Overwatch shut down, which it doesn't explain why it shut down. Omnics want peace with humans. And the second Omnic Crisis starts, and then Overwatch reunites. That's it. That's the entire history of Overwatch according to this timeline. Nothing about the history of the organization during the crisis or anything about the archives missions. None of that. We go straight from the recap cinematic, which in the recap cinematic, the last thing we see is Mei responding to Winston's recall during her cinematic, and then that goes all the way up to Freya's motion comic as the next spot in the timeline. And then from there we get Freya's trailer, obviously Wu Yang's comic and trailer. Then our first appearance at all of Ramatra with Reconciliation. And then that goes into breaking news, which just came out a few weeks ago, which basically wraps up this invasion story arc that we were never exposed to in this story section, before moving into Vendetta's hero trailer. And that's the entire Overwatch timeline, according to this story section. As someone who is very passionate about Overwatch's lore, this feels like a half-assed launch. I'm very happy that we have it in-game now, but it needs a hell of a lot more expansion in the future. Give us every Overwatch 1 cinematic in full. Give us the comics and the short stories. Give us the cinematics from the archives missions. Give us the full invasion arc. Even if it bloats the file size of Overwatch 2 to do it with these massive video files, I do not care. Don't skimp out on the past just because it's not going to help you directly sell your future content. That's my rant about the story section. And finally, legacy progression badges were added back into the game from the old progression system under a new sub-tab, and the top 3 heroes shown on player cards are now just for that specific role, not just your overall top 3. Both of these, I think, are pretty good changes that do, in fact, help with the health of the game. So, despite the lazy implementation of story content into the game itself, I do think that overall quality of life changes this season were decent and arguably the most memorable things about the season overall. I'm going to give it a rating of a B. And finally, we're going to talk about the monetization and store items. So starting out with the starter pack for Season 19, we got Cursed Mummy Venture, which is by far the best mummy theme skin we've ever gotten, if you don't count Reaper's Mythic. It's creepy, but even more so goofy, as it ties really nicely into Venture's personality. It's not their best skin ever, but for a starter pack skin, I think it was adequate. From there, we launched the season with the Archangel Mega Bundle, which is also a seemingly modified version of the stuff we saw in a skin survey set last year. In this bundle, we got Archangel Sigma, Archangel Baptiste, Archangel Genji, Archangel Freya, and Fallen Angel Mercy. And most of these just look so kind of just forgettable to me. Like, the only one that was really worth picking up, much like I predicted in that skin survey, was the Mercy one. So I did get her bundle. Yes, the Mercy tax is still real. She was basically 1,000 Overwatch points more expensive than any of the other ones. but man, that Fallen Angel skin looks so sick. Like, I love the black and red Fallen Angel look for her. I had to grab that. Next, we got another OWCS crowdfunding bundle for the OWCS 2025 World Finals. And this gave us the Scarlet Flare bundle, which contained new recolors for both Juno and Mercy's OWCS crowdfunding skins from this year, as well as a brand new Scarlet skin for Freya that matches. And out of every bundle this season, man, I think this has to be my favorite. I didn't care too much for Juno or Mercy's OWCS crowdfunding skins when they came out, but these black, gray, red, and orange color scheme, like recolors for them, make them a billion times better. And Freya's skin is easily now in her top 5 best skins ever. Perhaps even better than last season's streetwear skin. I did pick this bundle up for the amazing skins and because I'm happy to support Overwatch esports.
Following that, we got a recolor bundle with the Freaky Fashion Mega Bundle. These were variously recolored color sets of Black Cat Mercy, Black Cat Alari, Haunted Doll Ash, and Azure Drake Brigitte. Obviously, those weren't the names of them, but you know, these are basically just recolors of those skins. While most of the recolors were nice, kind of with the exception of Ash, which kind of looks stupid, this is the kind of set that you really don't want to drop actual money on, and would only really buy if you're just sitting on a bunch of Overwatch coins that you don't know what to do with, or better yet, just use them as future loot box content. So I didn't pick any of these up. And we have a similar story with the next bundle that we got, which is the Japanese Spirits Mega Bundle, including Tanuki Roadhog, Inari Kiriko, Lucky Cat Ash, Oni Reaper, and Yuki Ono Widowmaker. Now, these were all really great skins that were definitely better than the previous recolor bundle, but despite Kiriko's especially looking absolutely gorgeous, every time I thought about buying even just a single skin from this bundle, I stopped short, because it's one of those bundles where it's not garbage by any means. It's really, really good, but you just barely don't need it, so you don't buy it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure this set is coming to Game Pass next season anyway, so I'll get to enjoy it for a little while. And much like the previous bundle, I think these are the kind of skins where unlocking them for free in a loot box would be far more enjoyable of an experience than spending $60 for the whole bundle or $30 just to unlock Kiriko. So I came close to getting it several times, but ultimately I didn't. We then got a lot of re-releases of some like just these really random old Overwatch 1 skins, which clogged up the shop a lot around this time with bundles for various heroes like Ana, Tracer, Reaper, and more, as well as bundles with just some random base and event legendaries such as like Bride Sombra and Black Cat Diva. I'm not sure if this was because they had an influx of new players from last season who didn't own many cosmetics and they wanted to give them like a good backlog to choose from, or what, but the shop was very heavily just cluttered with them from mid-season onwards. And from here, we got the Neo-Noir set, including Anti-Hero Reaper and Femme Fatale Widowmaker. I honestly loved both of these skins, and if it wasn't so damn expensive, I probably would have picked up the full set. But ultimately, I did just get the Widowmaker skin because, once again, she's a baddie. She's a baddie in it. I had to have it. We then got another recolor bundle with Gemstone. So these were recolors for Bast Doomfist, Nefertiri Farah, and Thoth Alari. Now, the Farah one is kind of alright, but not worth buying, and the other one didn't really intrigue me in the slightest. And finally, we got a Mage Punk set for Juno, Symmetra, Soldier, Malga, and Diva. And honestly, this one was almost as great as the OWCS bundle. They all felt unique, but still tied to like the same central theme in their own way. I love the colors on Juno's skin. Symmetra's is very simplistic, yet kind of sexy. And Malga's glowing crystals and energy around his like cybernetic arms that he has in this skin looks super dope. And Toki and Diva's skin blends this like really futuristic and old steampunk kind of energy. Loved it. And the only real dud in terms of this bundle was the Soldier skin. I don't know why Soldier has been getting shit on in the skin department for the past 2 seasons, but that goofy ass mask ain't doing him any favors in this set. But I absolutely loved it. I had to pick it up. And I think a lot of this season ended up being kind of a dud in terms of the shop content, but man, a couple great bundles definitely propped it up in my book. That's why it's going to get a rating of a C. So, finally, in conclusion, there was a lot wrong with Season 19, but I was blind to a lot of it during the time that the season was going on because I was actually playing a lot more competitive this season. I actually managed to hit a brand new career high rank of like Plat 3, I do believe, on my highest rank, so I'm happy about that. So, but because of that, I really wasn't paying attention to all of the bad things going on in the season. However, when sitting down to do this review, the flaws became more and more apparent to me the more I looked into them. There were only a very few things it did right, but they carried a lot of the weight for the season overall. That's why I'm going to give it Season 19 Haunted Masquerade a overall rating of a C. But that's going to do it for me here, you guys. Remember, guys, if you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't leave a dislike, subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'm Passion, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.